The ballroom of the Grand Crescent Hotel glittered with crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, and the city's wealthiest families. Cameras flashed as billionaire Ethan Caldwell arrived holding the hand of his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Despite the applause surrounding them, Lily remained silent. She couldn't hear the music, the conversations, or the cheering crowd. Born profoundly deaf, she had spent her entire life communicating through sign language and facial expressions. Ethan had spent hundreds of millions of dollars searching for a cure. The world's finest surgeons, researchers, and specialists had all made promises, but none had changed Lily's world. That evening was supposed to raise money for children with hearing disabilities. Instead, it became the night that changed everyone's lives. Across the hall, another father quietly entered with his 6-year-old son. His name was Daniel Brooks. His suit was old but neatly pressed. He carried himself with the calm confidence of someone who had seen far more than anyone could imagine. Few people knew Daniel had once served as an elite Navy SEAL before leaving the military to raise his son alone after losing his wife. Most guests assumed he was just another volunteer. As they passed the registration desk, a wealthy businessman whispered loudly enough for others to hear. "Looks like someone forgot this isn't a public shelter." Several people laughed. Daniel ignored them. His son looked up and asked softly, "Dad, are they laughing at us?" Daniel smiled. "They don't know our story." Inside the ballroom, Ethan stood beside the stage while Lily watched children playing together. She smiled politely, but every laugh she couldn't hear reminded her she was different. Daniel noticed her from across the room. Years of military observation had trained him to see details others overlooked. When Lily adjusted the hearing processor behind her ear, Daniel's expression changed instantly. He had seen that technology before. Not in a hospital, on a military base. Years ago. He walked closer, careful not to disturb the family. One of Ethan's security guards stepped forward. "Sir, this area is reserved." Daniel nodded respectfully. "I understand. I just wanted to ask one question." Ethan turned toward him. "What is it?" Daniel looked at Lily's hearing device. "Has anyone ever checked whether that processor is compatible with the old Sentinel prototype?" The billionaire frowned. "The what?" Daniel's eyes narrowed. "I was part of a classified humanitarian mission overseas years ago. We protected a team developing experimental hearing technology for children injured during the conflict." Ethan stared at him. "I've never heard of that project." Most people haven't. Before Daniel could explain further, one of Ethan's medical advisors interrupted. "With respect, sir, every recognized treatment has already been explored." Daniel didn't argue. He simply reached into his worn backpack. From inside, he carefully removed a small protective case. The room fell silent. Inside the case rested a compact military-grade audio interface unlike anything the doctors had ever seen. Daniel looked at Ethan. "I kept this because one of the engineers told me that if the project was ever abandoned, someone might still need it someday." Ethan's heart began to race. For the first time in years, someone wasn't offering hope. Someone was offering evidence. The ballroom became eerily quiet. Every guest watched as Daniel carefully placed the small military case on a nearby table. The polished metal device inside looked nothing like the modern hearing equipment the doctors used every day. One of Ethan Caldwell's specialists stepped forward. "May I see it?" Daniel nodded. The doctor examined the device, then suddenly froze. "I've seen this logo before." He pointed to a tiny faded emblem engraved on the side. It belonged to a government-funded research program that disappeared almost 12 years ago. Ethan looked stunned. "You mean, this is real?" "It appears to be." Daniel took a slow breath. "During my final overseas mission, our unit protected a team of engineers working on hearing technology for children injured in war zones. Funding disappeared before the project was completed. When we evacuated, one of the scientists handed me this prototype and said, 'One day, a child will need this more than we do.'" The room was silent. For years, Daniel had carried the small case in a drawer at home, unable to throw it away. Now he finally understood why. The medical team immediately contacted their laboratory. Within an hour, technicians confirmed something astonishing. The prototype used a unique signal processing system, years ahead of its time, that could communicate with certain hearing implants that had always been considered impossible to optimize. Lily's implant was one of them. The doctors carefully connected the device under controlled conditions. Ethan knelt beside his daughter, holding her tiny hand. No one dared speak. The lead audiologist slowly activated the system. A soft tone echoed through the room. Lily blinked. Her eyes widened. She turned toward the sound. Then she looked directly at her father. Her lips trembled. For the first time in her life, she whispered a single word she had only learned by watching others speak. Dad. Ethan broke down in tears. He wrapped his daughter in the tightest embrace of his life as everyone in the room stood frozen, many wiping tears from their eyes. The guests who had mocked Daniel lowered their heads in shame. The humble single father had brought something that money, power, and influence could not buy. Ethan stood and faced Daniel. You didn't just change my daughter's life. He paused, his voice shaking. You changed mine. The ballroom erupted into applause, not for the billionaire, but for the quiet ex-SEAL who had carried hope in an old forgotten case for more than a decade.